to admit that I would prefer for the personal God to be with me than an impersonal force.
Amen to that. Amen
in
to
any
that.
case, I should have told you in my prep that you should expect the most mind-blowing information per second in this talk. Because Casey, I think in his alternate life, should have been maybe an auctioneer or a square dance caller.
I sent Pam on a hunt for a Coke this afternoon for me, and that was a real mistake, so
okay.
Apologize.
So we have just a few minutes for questions, but you've gotten a lot of really challenging questions, Casey, so I'm just going to run through them, and if you don't have anything to say, you can pass on some of these. Would Earth's location in the local bubble, low density of objects relative to the rest of our galaxy, suggest intentional placement and privilege?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, going back to Carl Sagan, he said that we live in this humdrum location in our galaxy that doesn't matter. That is hardly the case. We are located between the spiral arms of a galaxy. That means, number one, there's not as much radiation in this part of the galaxy. We're far from the galactic core, so we're removed from radiation. We're also in a location where you can see the stars. If we were in one of the spiral arms, there would be too much dust, and you would not be able to do astronomy. So I did not come up with these arguments. These were from Guillermo Gonzalez and Jay Richards in their book, The Privileged Planet, which I highly recommend on this topic. But yeah, we are certainly located in a special location in the galaxy that is well designed for life. Don't listen to any materialist who tells you that we're in this unimportant location.
How does Uranus have a magnetic field with no liquid core?
That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer. In fact, I have a feeling that I'm going to speculate here that nobody is really sure what the answer is to that. We know that it has a magnetic field because we've been able to measure it when we've sent satellites to the outer solar system. So these may be questions that are yet to be resolved, but I'll Google that when I get home, and you should too. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Does the rate of recycling nutrients due to tectonics match the rate of depletion?
Well, it must, or else it wouldn't work. So I assume the answer is yes, yeah. So I'm going to go on a limb there and say the answer has to be yes, yeah.
How does Uranus's severely tilted magnetic poles and the resulting plasmoids of its atmosphere thrown into space exist with such specific designs for planets?
I don't know the answer to that one either.
Could the surprising amount...
anybody knows.
Could the surprising amount... I told you these were tough questions. Could the surprising amount of water on Earth have been delivered by a collision with the hypothetical planet Theia in the distant past?
So the Theia hypothesis is this idea that when Earth was forming in its early stages, another planetary body hit it and then caused a bunch of matter to eject, and that matter then condensed into the moon. And so, what is the question?
I already moved into another kind. Could the surprising amount of water on Earth have been delivered by a collision with the hypothetical planet?
So I suppose it could, but one of the problems is that the moon is thought to have a very similar bulk composition to, at least it's thought to be composed of material that is inner solar system material, okay? So given that it comes from inner solar system material, you're gonna come up against the same problem of you have to explain how water got locked up in an inner solar system body that formed the moon. So you're gonna keep bumping up against the same problem either way, even if you like the Theia hypothesis.
You have some interesting followers, Casey. We just received a message from Darth Vader saying, "May the Force be with you."
Well, thank you very much. And also with you.
Okay. Okay, this is a more serious question. Is not Dr. Luskin arguing from what is to its probability, and can't this be done for any phenomenon? So I think the idea is, well, of course we have those special properties because, well, they're not special because there just is, and so you're arguing from that to its probability.
Well, I mean, if habitable planets are very common in the universe, then we could say that Earth is improbable. So far, from what we've seen, we have at least 8 or 9 planets, depending on how you want to go, in our solar system to study, and there's nothing that is anywhere like Earth, providing even just a few of the necessary criteria for habitability. So that makes us think that Earth is special in having these criteria. So I'm not just saying that Earth is, what I'm saying is we can look at the planets that exist, and we can see that habitability seems to be very rare. Now, we're now starting to find a lot of extrasolar planets in other solar systems very far away. And what we're finding is that the vast majority of the planets that we're discovering tend to be these gas giants. okay? Planets that that really cannot meet any of these criteria needed for habitability. So we're yet to find a planet, there's a couple that have been discovered potentially within the circumstellar habitable zone, but they typically, again, are gonna be gas giants. We're not finding planets that seem to be habitable for life in these extrasolar planets. I think as time goes on, we're gonna get a better handle on just how common habitable planets are, but from what we know right now, they seem to be very, very rare.
How do we even know about the different layers of the Earth if we can't travel that deep?
That's a great question. One of the main reasons that we know about the layers of the Earth is through seismicity. Whenever an earthquake happens, the seismic waves travel through the Earth, and we can figure out where on the Earth the earthquake occurred, and then we can see how other seismic stations on the Earth pick up those seismic waves. And we can then calculate the density of the rock that those seismic waves traveled through, and also the kind of rock, whether it's solid or liquid iron in the core, based upon the kind of waves that arrive at those other seismic stations around the Earth. And it is actually through that we've been able to determine that the outer core is liquid. We've been able to determine the density of the mantle. We've been able to even determine potentially the temperature of the mantle. There's a lot we can learn about the interior of the Earth, and also the density and the structure of the core. There's a lot we've been able to determine about the interior of the Earth by looking at seismic waves.
I think this session, you also win the award for the most interesting questions. Would the inner core of Earth be a good candidate for hell?
Oh my. Well, as far as we know, the inner core of the Earth is completely solid. So it's not a good place to be, I don't know what's in hell, but if you need space for things to exist, then yeah. But I think that if you want to have beings in the interior of the Earth, as far as we know, it's either, a solid rock or there's liquid molten there. So I'm not an expert in hell, and I don't plan on becoming one either. So I don't know the answer to this question.
We are about out of time, but I will do one last question that someone asked I thought was really interesting, tie into the very last section of your talk. Luke 19:40 says, "The very stones would cry out." What do you think about the idea of creation praising God, perhaps in more literal ways than previously thought?
Well, look, I am a Christian, and I don't believe that we're the result of an impersonal force. I believe that we are the result of a loving God. And when I look, sometimes people will say, well, maybe the universe was designed by a God who doesn't care, or maybe life was designed by aliens. Well, I'm sorry, but aliens cannot account for the design of the universe and all the fine-tuning of the cosmic laws. And I don't think that an impersonal God would take so much care not just to create a universe and then leave it alone. That's not what we see happening. What we see is great care was taken in making our specific planet. Literally, the air that you're breathing right now is just the Goldilocks mix of gases that are needed to sustain advanced life. So I think a lot of care shows that this planet was not just created by a supreme being, but a supreme being that loves us very much, a personal God, and a theistic God. So I think that is the best explanation for the world that we see.
Final comment comes from one of the people who are listening either here or elsewhere. Famous baseball coach Branch Rickey said, "Luck is the residue of design." Loved your talk. Thank you.
There you go. And I'm a Dodgers fan, so thanks for signing Branch Rickey.
Okay.